Boker Tov. So nice to see you. You know, every time somebody comes, they starts a presentation, they apologize for how hard it is to get here from Tel Aviv University. And I say many of our grandparents had it much more difficult by boat with a transit in Cyprus. So, Emirates through Dubai wasn't so bad. And when I asked Tao what they wanted me to speak about, they said, you should speak about 5 minutes. And they gave me this topic. So here we go. So I'm just going to define the problem, then talk about what we look at solutions. Now, we've seen lots of devastation in the Middle East. Anybody want to guess where this photo is taken from? Okay, this is 2 summers ago, Libya, 5,000 dead in a weekend, right? So 5,000 dead in a weekend. Anybody see many protests around the world? But the devastation that's happened across the world. We've seen all the terrible photos. This is actually from Canada also, heat records. Fires, we've had many again in Israel. And if we really project into the future, what could happen? Because as humans, we live in the present. And we say, yeah, it was a bit hotter last year. Yeah, it was a bit hotter last year. But when you look at that, this is what happens in 50 years, right? And so no matter what the people in this room, I guess you're all interested in the topic, but if you're interested in health, education, anything that you're interested, poverty, this is a baseline which affects it all. And so really should be part of anybody's activities and philanthropic giving, because if we don't fix this, everything else is impacted. And that's why it's become my top priority, as well as other topics, but it's the baseline that we all have to really consider if we're long-sighted, which the Jewish people, I believe, are. So, very briefly, most people, actually, if they did the biggest global survey, and 72% of people believe we should move off fossil fuels. But the challenge, like many things, is that what people want and what people do are 2 different things. Just like weight loss, smoking, everybody knows it's unhealthy to be 10, 20, 50 pounds overweight. I was at the Houston airport. Let me tell you, it's a lot of folks that are overweight. But Ozempic has actually had a huge impact, right? Technology innovation, because people have difficulty changing behavior. But with this technology, with their personal behavior, but with technology, huge impact on obesity in the US. And the same thing with certain devices for stopping smoking. So the basic idea is that we could try to tell people why they have to change their behavior. That's very hard. And so our basic thesis that I'm involved in is that, just like the university is a great innovator, what we really need is innovation to replace how we work in general, transform industries so the change is much less painful versus trying to get people to change their behavior and protest, hey, you're stopping me from eating my French fries, right? When you take the Ozempic, they become less nice. And just to go back in time, back in the early 1900s, we had something called the manure crisis, right? Horses and transport was filling up the cities, and there was all kinds of diseases. But of course, you can imagine what's going on in these streets with all these horses happening, right? And they had committees how to solve this problem, right? And all of a sudden, without any regulation, this innovation came, and it replaced the problem in 10 years, right? Without any regulation. Innovation transformed the industry and solved this crisis that we had. And that's the kind of idea of what we're looking for across the board. This guy, I think he was a doctor now, right? And we actually brought him to Montreal 15 years ago, and he said this, that fossil fuels are analog, renewables are digital. And Israel is a digital country, is it not? This is the innovators. We make digital transformation and can become the leading edge of what's required to really, hopefully, do literal tikkun olam. And this is the power of solar. So many years ago when he came, it was more expensive. And today, we're not building many coal plants anymore globally, not because people and governments have said, oh, it's a bad idea. It's because it's way less effective as an energy source. So that's where we have to invest, in technology that will replace industries. Definitely regulation is important. We want to have as much to help move things forward, but we need innovation. That's what we could do proactively, not waiting for governments. So just very briefly, come some sectors. There's major companies on the investment side that have huge divisions in investing in the technology to move it forward. There's ones that are called impact investing. Bill Gates is behind Breakthrough Energy. They spend billions in the area. They've actually had some good returns, but the main focus isn't necessarily short-term returns, right? And then there's a lot of philanthropies. I'm involved in the Climate Solution Prize. We give away money for breakthrough investment in Israel. We also do it in Canada. And the idea is that we have a multiplier effect on our investments. And there's a multiplier of Jewish Climate Trust getting big Jewish philanthropists to invest together to have more impact together. So there's multiple ways folks in this audience, right, can get involved either through philanthropy impact or investment impact, and that's going to have one of the biggest transformations and hopefully have a great return for you and your kids. And finally, got to talk about Israel because we're here, the startup nation. And one of my heroes, Ben Gurion, of course you've all seen this quote many times, I'm sure, but Israel has an expertise at solving existential problems, right? If you were here in the 1940s, the idea that Israel would be, exporting agriculture would be unheard of. And not only just the agriculture, but the technology to grow agriculture in arid areas to help do literal tikkun olam and feed the world. What I remember when I was back, Hebrew U, sorry, I went for a semester, we were rationing water back in the day, right? Now we have a water surplus, right? And we're exporting water to Jordan. They wanted me to talk a bit about collaboration. So even in the toughest time, these environmental projects that we work on together, we're importing solar energy from Jordan, exporting water through Israeli innovation, and building relations. Because one thing is that climate crosses borders. It's not a thing you have in your own area. It's something we can collaborate. We believe very strongly in what's called climate diplomacy. This is in Dubai at COP. We were also there for Dubai Expo. And there's a real strong commonality in this area because maybe we might disagree on politics, but this is something we can all solve together. And Israeli innovation, chokhmah, brain power could really solve this issue. So this is my two kids, my sons in their first non-fossil fuel powered car. And the reason why I do this, because again, we have to be thinking not this year, 20 years into the future. And if we really do care about our kids, we all know that we're interested in health, like as I said before, in education, in poverty, but this is the baseline for what we'll leave to our kids, and this has to be part of our investment philosophy. It's sometimes overwhelming, but I look to some great Jewish philosophies, and that even though I can't personally take care of it and fix it, each of us could contribute a little bit. If anybody wants to chat with me afterwards about getting involved, feel free to reach out. Toda rabba, thanks for Tel Aviv University, and good morning.